Man, it's hot.
Yep.
Thank God we have working air conditioner.
That's right.
Alright.
Boat air conditioning is a must-have for sure.
Alright, so we keep seeing everybody having problems with their AC on their boat and nobody seems to know where to start. So how do you figure it out?
So, you know, at home, the air conditioner, there's this unit outside the house, noisy thing that with the fan blowing.
Yeah.
That's that takes the heat out of the air conditioning system, right? That's the compressor and the condenser. And on the boat, it works differently. It's water cooled, right? So at the bottom of the boat, back here in the bilge, there's a hole in the bottom of the boat, and you know, a seacock, a valve that opens and closes. You got to make sure that's open, right?
Yeah.
And then that hose goes to a sea strainer, right, to catch any you know, gravel or anything that might get sucked up that hole, and then goes into a pump, water pump, and that pump connects to hoses to. On this boat, there's 2 air conditioner units, right? One in the under the V berth and one under the couch, the settee, and so those whenever either of the air conditioners wants to run, it triggers that pump to turn on, and the water ends up going through both air conditioners all the time when that pump runs. But you know, no matter which one wants to start it. So that water flow is really key, right? And there's a couple things that can kind of block that water flow from being enough. Like, for example, you could suck up a plastic bag underneath the boat and block or partially block that hole, and then your water flow is going to be, you know, a trickle or none.
Has that ever happened to us?
It hasn't.
No.
Other places, like further down the Chesapeake, where they get those jellyfish, the sea nettles.
Yeah.
People suck those up into the strainer.
Right. That happened at Cambridge. People got their air conditioner all messed up.
Yeah, we got lucky it hasn't happened, but Mark, a couple boats down, got clogged up with a plastic bag.
Oh, okay.
One time, and I heard it. He wasn't at the boat, but I could hear his air conditioners were making this funny noise. But anyway, so the other thing that can happen is, you know, in kind of muddy water, mud builds up inside the tubes and can sort of partially clog, and also insulate the water from actually cooling the unit. So, you know, sometimes you get a guy to pour like some kind of acid through there to like clean it out. And we've never had to have that done. Seems like every year when I winterize and the pink stuff goes through, that somehow manages to flush out the mud.
Okay.
And then it's dry over the winter, and then you know, when you start it in the spring, all this mud comes out, and it seems to work fine. But so that's part of the troubleshooting, is like, you know, are you getting good water spitting out the side of the boat?
Yeah, that's
right.
Number one.
Yeah,
Look
you
and
should have a strong flow out of both holes.
Right.
If you have we have 2 units. If you have 1 unit, then it'll just be 1 hole.
Right.
Spitting over the side. So you should have a nice strong stream coming out of there. And if not, then, you know, you got to make sure check your strainer's not clogged. Also, the strainer cap has to be on real tight, because the water pump might be sucking air if the cap isn't on tight. You don't want that either. So you got to make sure that cap's on tight, you're not sucking air. Make sure your hose clamps are tight so that it's got a strong suction to pull that water up from under the boat and spit it over the side.
Okay. What about that high PS error that we got?
So that was when the pump wasn't running at all. When the one unit wanted to turn it on, it didn't turn the pump on. And so there was no water flow at that time. So it quickly heated up, the unit heated up too high and shut itself off with that error code, high PS.
That was on the panel.
Yeah, that means that there's no water flow. Now, it turned out that the water pump was fine because the other unit was able to turn it on. So in the case where you got multiple units like that, there's this extra box with these what they call trigger circuits, and they're easily replaceable, like the video that we did.
Yeah, so we'll link that up at the end of the video.
Yeah, so and that's pretty common. The triggers fail, so that's where each unit wants to turn that water pump on when it thinks it's warm, like in the front cabin or the back, salon, and so those triggers send the electricity to the water pump, and that wasn't working.
Okay, what else could happen?
So you mentioned the high PS error code. You can also get a low PS error code.
Yeah.
And that usually happens when either inside the boat on the unit there's a little filter in front of the evaporator coils, and that gets clogged with dust. And so if you're not getting any airflow through there because it's all clogged up, it will throw the low PS code. And it's not able to absorb the heat from the cabin because of the airflow clog. You can also get that error message if you're losing Freon, or the refrigerant that's inside the coils. If you have a leak of the refrigerant, then you got to call a professional to fix or probably replace the unit.
Yeah, this is all about trying to figure out what could be wrong.
Yeah. And
maybe you could fix it. Maybe you're going to need pulling some help.
Right. But I mean, I think in the case of a high PS situation or water flow problem, you can definitely fix it yourself. If you have to replace the water pump. But before you do that, consider the trigger failure, which is...
If you have two AC units.
Yes. If you have a single AC unit, you probably don't have a trigger. Right. And it's directly controlled from the power box of the one AC unit. But a lot of times, you got a clog, something's clogging up the hole, something's clogging up the strainer cap's not on tight, and you're sucking air. Sometimes you got to pour a little water in the line to get it to prime the pump, because the pump won't pump air. Right? So those are the big things. Or it's clogged with muck in the lines.
Yeah. So
those are the things you can probably take care of yourself. You just have to figure out what's going on. That's the key thing, how to troubleshoot it.
Cool. And you are, I would say, an expert at troubleshooting, because that's all I see you do with your day job, right?
Yeah, I'm an IT guy, so I've been doing a lot of troubleshooting my whole career.
Yeah.
So.
Just start with the most logical path, and work your way down.
Think it through, and I knew, because in the example where we were getting high PS and no water flow on the one unit, but it was working on the other unit, that means the water pump works.
Yeah. Right?
All the hoses worked, they weren't clogged. So I was able to eliminate that all in my mind before I even, went to the next step of what it could be. Right. And then just understanding how the trigger system worked made me realize that it had to be the trigger. And it was a small part I got on Amazon, and problem solved.
Yeah, that was an easy one.
Yeah.
All right, so it's getting pretty hot out here. I see we got a dog that's looking pretty hot. Maybe we need to get back into the air conditioning.
Yeah.
and have a drink.
If you have a high PS error, watch our full video on how to replace the faulty relay trigger. Hope you like this video and subscribe for more from My Boat Life.